When the lights dimmed inside the Beijing Police Department that afternoon, the room fell into silence so thick it could crush a heartbeat. Rows of reporters leaned forward, their cameras poised, pens trembling above notepads. At the podium, the lead investigator adjusted his microphone, his voice steady yet heavy with the weight of what he was about to reveal. After nearly 2 years, he said, "We have successfully restored the original CCTV footage from the night of Yu Menglong's death." The room erupted. Flashbulbs exploded like lightning. Someone gasped audibly, another murmured, "Impossible." Outside the building, hundreds of fans had gathered, clutching posters and candles, their faces streaked with tears and rain. The words "Justice for you" echoed through the crowd, a chant that had long turned from grief to fury. For almost 2 years, the truth behind Yu Menglong's death was buried under speculation and silence. The official report had called it an unfortunate medical collapse. His agency said fatigue. The tabloids whispered of overdose. But those who knew Yu, the actor, the singer, the quiet perfectionist, insisted none of it made sense. He was scared. One friend had said. He told me someone was following him, that he was being watched. The police's announcement that day cracked open a tomb of secrets. The footage they recovered wasn't just evidence, it was resurrection. The first frame appeared blurry, colors bleeding like ink in water. Technicians worked for months to piece it together from corrupted fragments, decoding pixels like archaeologists unearthing the past. Slowly, shapes emerged, a bar counter, bottles glinting under cold blue light, 2 figures seated opposite each other. One of them was unmistakably Yu Menglong, head down, nervous fingers tracing the rim of his glass. The timestamp read 23:41, September 11th. That night had begun like any other, at least on the surface. Yu had finished recording a late-night session at a small studio in Chaoyang district. He was exhausted but restless. His driver recalled how Yu received a call, a female voice, soft but urgent. He hesitated before answering. "It's been too long," she said. According to the driver's partial recollection. Minutes later, Yu dismissed him for the night. "I'll take a taxi," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Witnesses saw him enter a dimly lit bar near Sanlitun around 11:20 p.m. The establishment was quiet that night, rain drizzled against the windows. Neon lights reflected in puddles on the street. The staff remembered Yu's politeness, his lowered cap, the way he kept checking his phone. He looked unsettled. One bartender said later, like he was expecting something bad to happen. And then, she arrived. Song Yaron, actress, colleague, former confidant. Her name had been whispered for months but never confirmed. Until now. The footage had been too grainy to tell. As the technicians enhanced the image, the contours of her face took form, a familiar silhouette beneath a white coat, hair tied loosely, a silver bracelet glinting under the bar light. She smiled at Yu, leaned closer, and ordered 2 glasses of whiskey. The conversation appeared tense. In one slowed segment, Yu gestured anxiously, his voice low but sharp. Lip-reading experts later interpreted fragments. "I can't keep covering for you, it's gone too far." His expression hardened. She looked away, then back, eyes glinting with something between hurt and anger. Then, at 23:46, lifted the small bottle of tonic water and poured it into his glass. The footage paused there for a moment during the police presentation. The frame frozen mid-motion, the liquid mid-air, the droplets catching light like tiny shards of glass. "This," the investigator said quietly, "is where everything changed." What followed was subtle but terrifying. Yu raised the glass, hesitated, then drank. Within minutes, he began to fidget, wiping sweat from his temple despite the cold. His pupils dilated. He touched his throat, gasping softly, trying to steady himself. Song sat motionless, her eyes fixed on him. When he collapsed forward, she didn't scream. She simply reached out, took his phone from the table, placed it into her bag, and stood up. The timestamp. 23:53. She left calmly, walking past a camera without a trace of panic. For a split second, her gaze met the lens. It was the look that would haunt every investigator who reviewed the footage, blank, emotionless, almost defiant. For the next 12 minutes, Yu Menglong lay slumped against the bar, twitching, struggling to breathe. The bartender, busy in the back room, didn't notice until it was too late. By the time the ambulance arrived, Yu was unresponsive. The CCTV recording cut off abruptly at 0:05, followed by static. When the video ended, the press room was dead silent. No one moved. The only sound was the soft hum of the projector. Investigator exhaled slowly and turned off the screen. "This is the truth," he said. "This is what they tried to erase." Outside, news spread like wildfire. Hashtags flooded Weibo within minutes. Yu Menglong footage. Song Yiren exposed, justice for you. Thousands of fans cried openly in live streams, their disbelief turning into rage. Some refused to believe it. Others demanded arrests. The streets outside the police department became a sea of candles, flowers, and trembling hands holding phones that replayed the same 30 seconds over and over, the pouring, the glance, the fall. But behind that viral frenzy, questions began to surface. Who deleted the footage in the first place? Why had it been missing for almost 2 years? And who ordered the silence? According to internal sources, the bar's CCTV system had been tampered with remotely the day after the incident. The hard drive was reported as corrupted and sent to a third-party maintenance company, one that conveniently went bankrupt weeks later. The recovered data came not from that drive, but from a shadow backup stored deep within the city's surveillance cloud, accidentally discovered during an unrelated audit. The restoration process took 8 months, using forensic AI to reconstruct frames from fragmented metadata. The result wasn't perfect, but it was enough to show the truth no one wanted to see. Investigators revealed additional stills that hadn't been shown publicly. Yu's phone lighting up seconds before he collapsed, displaying an unsent message draft. "I think she's going to." The rest was cut off. His fingerprints were found on the phone, had been wiped clean when recovered. In the following days, media outlets scrambled to contact Song Yiren. Her agency issued a short statement. Ms. Song has no comment regarding rumors or ongoing investigations. Yet online, fans began to dig. Screenshots surfaced of deleted messages between the two. In one, Yu wrote, "You promised not to involve them." In another, "I'm tired of hiding the truth." Stories spiraled out of control, some claiming blackmail, others insisting a powerful figure had ordered the cover-up. But within police files, something even more disturbing was noted. The substance found in Yu's blood was not an ordinary stimulant. It was a banned neuroenhancer used in underground performance labs, capable of inducing heart failure when mixed with alcohol. The same compound had been seized from illegal research facilities months prior. The implication was clear: this wasn't an accident, a crime of passion. It was planned. Late one night, a source inside the forensic lab described what it was like to watch the restored footage for the first time. "You don't forget something like that," he said, his voice shaking over the phone. "It's not just a video." Man realizing, in real time, that he's dying, and that the person in front of him doesn't care. The police have yet to release the full unedited video to the public, citing graphic content and emotional sensitivity. But those who've seen it say the most haunting moment isn't the collapse, it's the few seconds before it happens. When Yu looks at Song as if pleading for something, for forgiveness, for understanding, or maybe for help, and she just watches. The end of that week, the story dominated every screen in China. News anchors debated whether the footage should have been restored at all. Commentators questioned how such evidence could vanish for years. Fans lit virtual candles online. Strangers wrote letters addressed to Yu's mother, apologizing for believing the official reports. Middle of it all, one image circulated endlessly, a grainy still from the recovered video showing Song Yiren's hand hovering above Yu's glass, caught between innocence and guilt. The internet called it a moment time stopped. Police refused to comment on whether Song Yiren had been summoned for questioning. Insiders hinted at high-level negotiations between legal teams. Some speculated that the bar's management and Yu's agency had reached a secret agreement to suppress the footage back in 2023. Others whispered that more people were involved, people with influence powerful enough to erase evidence, if only temporarily. Chaos unfolded. The lead investigator was seen leaving the press conference late that night, looking exhausted. When asked by a reporter if he believed this was the final truth, he paused. "The camera doesn't lie," he said, glancing back at the building behind him. "But people do." He didn't elaborate. But one thing was certain: whatever had been buried that September night had clawed its way back to the surface, and it demanded to be seen. That restored footage, no matter how grainy, was now more than just evidence. It was a ghost. Flickering between pixels, whispering through static. It was Menglong's voice returning from the void, saying the words he never had the chance to finish. "I think she's going to." Sentence hung unfinished, like the echo of a warning that came too late. And as the city of Beijing slept uneasily under the glow of millions of phone screens replaying his final moments, chilling truth settled over everyone who watched. The footage was real. The act was deliberate. And the nightmare had only just begun. After the footage was released, the city of Beijing awoke to a silence that felt foreign. Cafes played the news in whispers, taxi drivers spoke in fragments. Every screen, every phone, billboard carried the same image, Menglong's final moments frozen in time. The man whose smile once filled screens was now immortalized in tragedy, his eyes pleading from a pixelated grave. Police Forensics Unit. The recovered footage played again. Time frame by frame. Investigators leaned close to the monitor, tracing every flicker of light, every reflection, every shadow. One officer froze the image at 23 hours, 52 minutes, and 47 seconds, just seconds before you collapsed. There, in the curved surface of a bar mirror behind him, third figure appeared faintly, standing in the background, wearing a dark coat and a cap pulled low. The reflection had gone unnoticed during earlier analysis. "Enhance that section," the lead investigator ordered. Pixels cleared. The outline became undeniable, a man. He was in staff, his position near the restricted area made that impossible. And yet, no record of his presence appeared in the bar's guest log. Whoever he was, the officer muttered, he was there to watch. Discovery rewired the investigation. Suddenly, Song Yaoren was no longer the sole suspect. She might not even have been acting alone. But before police could verify the identity of the man in the reflection, another wave of chaos hit. That afternoon, Song Yaoren appeared publicly for the first time since the footage surfaced. Cameras swarmed her as she exited a black sedan outside her management building, wearing sunglasses and a mask. Silence only fueled speculation. "Did you poison Menglong?" shouted one reporter. She kept walking. "Do you deny the CCTV evidence?" someone else yelled. Her hand trembled briefly before she entered the building without a word. Hours later, her lawyer issued a formal statement. "Ms. Song strongly denies all allegations. Footage has been maliciously altered. We urge the public to await scientific verification." Problem for Song was that science had already spoken. The Beijing Digital Forensics Bureau released a technical report that same evening confirming the video's authenticity at 99.87% certainty. Every frame matched the original timestamp logs from the security system. No signs of deepfake manipulation. Compression edits. The video was real and damning. Public reaction exploded beyond containment. By midnight, the hashtag Song Yaoren poisoned you had surpassed 500 million views. Protesters gathered outside her agency's headquarters, signs reading "She smiled while he died and truth never deletes" in fan forums. Arguments raged between those who defended her and those who demanded her arrest. Some fans destroyed her posters in live streams, others insisted the footage was too convenient. A political fabrication. Inside police headquarters, investigators built a timeline of events that now pointed to deliberate premeditation. Song's financial records revealed a wire transfer of 480 yen, 000 received 3 days before the incident, from a shell company registered under a false name. Company was traced to Lin Hao, the manager of the bar where the murder occurred. Lin had vanished from Beijing 2 weeks after Yu's death. Police finally located him in Tianjin. He was living under a fake identity. He denied everything, until confronted with restored footage showing him entering the bar through a staff door at 23:32. Minutes before Yu arrived, Lin broke down. His confession: Lin claimed he'd been paid to make sure the camera failed that night. He said he was told to trigger a manual reboot at a specific time, so the footage would appear corrupted. When asked who gave the order, Lin hesitated. Whispered, "Her agent, Ms. Songs." The revelation detonated like a bomb across media networks. The story was no longer just a murder, it was a conspiracy. Meanwhile, as evidence piled up, the emotional weight of the footage began to crush everyone who watched it. A forensic psychologist assigned to the case described Yu's final moments as the purest form of human terror, realizing betrayal and death simultaneously. Online, millions began sharing his songs again, flooding platforms with tributes. His voice was too gentle for this world, one fan wrote. 3 days later, police summoned Song Yiren for official questioning. Cameras followed her car to the station, broadcasting the scene live. Inside the interrogation room, sat across from the lead investigator, a woman named Li Wen, known for her relentless precision. "I'm meeting you Menglong on the night of September 11th, Li asked. Song's eyes were hollow behind her sunglasses. "No. Do you deny pouring liquid into his drink?" Silence. A flicker of defiance crossed her face. "It was water." Li placed a still frame from the CCTV on the table. "I both know it wasn't." Song's jaw tightened. "Think I killed him? Do you even understand what he was capable of?" "Then tell me," Li replied softly. "Was he capable of?" For the first time, Song spoke more than a sentence. Her words spilled like venom and sorrow. She claimed you had been controlling, threatening to expose her personal life, and using private footage against her. None of this had been verified. Investigators quickly discovered inconsistencies in her story. Still, her performance was convincing enough to create doubt, especially among those who already distrusted the police. The next day, her statement leaked to the press. Narrative began to shift. Headlines screamed, "Was Yu Menglong hiding a dark side?" Editorials debated his personality. Old interviews were reinterpreted. Victim blaming had begun. But then came the second restoration. Forensic analysts uncovered a hidden subfolder in the surveillance backup labeled Auto Archive. It contained 5 additional video fragments from cameras outside the bar, footage that hadn't been touched since 2023. In one clip, Song Yiren is seen exiting the bar at 23:54, talking urgently on the phone. Seconds later, a sedan pulls up beside her. She gets in. Driver? Lin Hao. The timestamp matched his confession exactly. The footage continued for another 2 minutes as the car drove away. But what came next froze everyone in the viewing room. At 23:57, another car arrived, black SUV. Windows. A man stepped out, wearing a long coat and cap, the same silhouette seen in the bar mirror. Entered through the back door Lin had used earlier. Stayed for 46 seconds. Left carrying a small metallic case. When police tracked the SUV's license plate, it led to a corporate vehicle registered under Celadon Entertainment, Yu's former management company. The implications were staggering. His own agency orchestrated his death? Why? For money? Silence? Control? Investigators reopened Yu's contract archives and found a clause that allowed the agency to seize all posthumous royalties if an artist passed unexpectedly before the term's end. The total value of Yu's unreleased music and advertising deals exceeded 30 million yen. The puzzle pieces were no longer separate, they formed a picture so grotesque it barely seemed real. When this revelation hit the public, the outrage was volcanic. Fans stormed Celadon Entertainment's social media pages, calling them murderers in suits. Sponsors withdrew. Brands cut ties overnight. CEO vanished from public view. Meanwhile, Song Yiren's lawyer resigned, citing ethical conflict. But, amidst all the chaos, a haunting paradox emerged. In interviews, Yu's friends described him not as naive but as someone who knew something was coming. He used to say, one recalled, "If I disappear one day, don't believe it was random." He had left behind voice memos, private recordings found on his cloud account, where he spoke about feeling trapped and needing to tell the truth soon. One recording ended with a cryptic line, "There's a reason they want me quiet." When these audios leaked, the world stopped again. People listened in tears. The gentle voice that once sang of love and light now sounded like a man whispering from the edge of doom. Soon after, the police made their final move. Arrested Song Yiren on charges of assisting in the administration of a toxic substance resulting in death. Warrants for Lin Hao and 2 executives from Celadon Entertainment. He labeled it the most explosive case in Chinese entertainment history. But even with arrests made, questions lingered. The man in the SUV. Why had so many risked everything to silence Yu Menglong? And then, in a twist almost cinematic in its cruelty, investigators discovered one final file, a voice message Yu had recorded just hours before his death. found buried in his phone's encrypted drive. Began with a long silence, followed by slow breathing. Then his voice. If you're hearing this, I guess the truth finally came out. I wasn't perfect. Wanted to protect something, someone. Maybe I failed. Maybe they'll say things about me that aren't true. But please, don't forget who I really was. Art should be real. When it hurts. The clip ended with faint knocking sounds, 3 taps. The last echoes of a man facing his own ending. The day the recording was released publicly, millions wept. Online memorials flooded social media. Fans gathered at the side of the bar, leaving white chrysanthemums and notes reading "We saw the truth." As the trial loomed, Song Yiren remained unrepentant. "He destroyed me first," said coldly to reporters. But when asked if she regretted that night, she hesitated for the first time. Sometimes, she whispered, "Wish I hadn't looked at the camera." Because in that single glance, captured forever, she had sealed her fate. Months later, during the court proceedings, prosecutors presented the restored footage on a massive screen. The courtroom lights dimmed. For 15 minutes, no one breathed. Mother covered her face, sobbing silently. When the video ended, the judge turned to Song. "Have anything to say?" She stared at the screen as if it were a mirror reflecting her own destruction. "He knew too much," she said. "They told me it wouldn't kill him. Just scare him." Her words sent a collective chill through the room. The they she mentioned was never clearly identified. The men behind Celadon vanished abroad before trial. The case stretched into a legal labyrinth that may never end. But for the public, the truth was already undeniable. Menglong hadn't died by chance. He'd been silenced by an industry that feeds on beauty and buries its broken stars. Weeks later, the lead investigator Lee Wen attended Yu's memorial. It was held in a small theater where he had once rehearsed. His favorite songs playing softly in the background. Filled every seat. Holding candles instead of applause. Lee stood at the back, watching the flickering lights. A young woman beside her whispered, "At least now he can rest." Lee nodded, her eyes distant. "Maybe," she said. "But the camera doesn't rest. It remembers." At night, as she walked home, she couldn't stop hearing the faint static of the restored footage in her mind, the sound that had haunted every officer who touched the case. Of truth resurrecting itself. And somewhere in the vast archives of the Forensics Bureau, that footage still loops endlessly on a secure drive, the rain falling, the drink poured, the gaze exchanged, the collapse. And time stopped. The moment the world finally saw what it was never meant to see. The moment Menglong's ghost found its voice again, not in words, but in pixels, light, and silence. Because in the end, truth doesn't vanish. It just waits. Hidden inside every frame, every shadow. Reflection, until someone dares to press play.